2 episode. Chip Slate, Being Libertarian, Amos Denton, the reason we are the #1 podcast in the German Baptist community. No Simon again for this show, but obviously if you listen to last week's show, you know we just kind of split together 2 shows in one night, and I'm just too lazy to honestly go through and record later that whole intro that I just decided tonight, you know what, I'm just going to stop the show. I'm going to pick it right back up. I'm going to do all the intro all over again. That way it's a very simple, smooth process. If you are listening to this right now and you are not a Patreon subscriber, you need to go become one, because you could have listened to this show immediately after the first one at patreon.com/GetOnTap for just a measly dime a day. You can always give more. And I'm thinking about here moving forward, because you can have tiers over there. And a lot of people give $3, and we appreciate everybody that chips in. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to do some maybe different tiers. That way, if you're giving, 10 or more, or 15 or 20 or something, then you will definitely get, invites up to come up and sit at a couple of these shows and hang out with somebody. I'm trying here in a couple of weeks. I want to get Henry Law to come up, and then Matt Van Swole and Sean Hendricks, and do 2 shows on a Saturday. I would love to get Dennis from, what's the name of his food truck?
Countryman.
Mm-hmm. Countryman Jamaican Grill. By the way, if you're not following him on Facebook and finding him when he's out and about, you need to do that. But I'm hoping that we can get Dennis up here to grill out, and get Henry up, get those 2 boys up, and they can kind of, maybe come on and hang out a little bit with each other on a show. So some people will kind of get interested in what's going on in Western North Carolina and what a lot of those boys are doing. So your subscriptions really help us out with that kind of stuff. It's really helping with this Appalachian movement we've got going here. I think that's what we are. I think that's what we're pushing for. We really want to be a voice. And so every little bit helps. You can also become a subscriber on X for just $3 a month. We do subscription posts. We'll do some subscription spaces here in the very near future. Once we get enough people over there, we're moving in on 20. You can also subscribe to Being Libertarian on X as well, right, Chip?
That's right.
I think that's $1, right? Maybe.
I think it's like $2.99, something like that, or about $3. But I think, like we talked about last show, folks who subscribe are much more likely to get mentions or shout outs on social media. And so if you've got a page of your own, which I know we've got a couple of subscribers that are meme pages, and I know their followings benefit from that. So that's another benefit that we don't really talk about much. If you subscribe to our services, we definitely appreciate it so much that we single you out and we'll help you out as much as we can business-wise.
Yeah. Well, I think you need to you do an awful lot for us, and I can't thank you enough for how much Being Libertarian has helped the Appalachian podcast, and then our kind of side project, Being Appalachian. You didn't go follow that. I appreciate the hell out of it. I need you to just return the favor on X and subscribe back to us. That way, we're having subscription group chats. You all are in there. And I'm telling you, man, the brand, people love it. People love it. People will get out there and throw in a couple of dollars if they think they can get in a group chat with us, and you being in there or Matt being in there, whoever it is. So we need to make sure we're all subscribing to each other. If we got, that way we can expand our reach.
Keep our numbers up.
Every little bit helps, and we truly, truly appreciate everybody out there. The fact that there is one person who actually pays money to hear me talk is such a magnificent blessing. I can't even put it into words. So the fact that we've got, a decent chunk of people out there subscribing right now, it's such a blessing.
It's probably mostly German Baptists. I mean, at the end of the day.
Using those fake burner accounts and whatnot. It should be,
Using their company phones.
That's company phone. You just outed some.
So we got that out of the way. Obviously if you're listening to the show, then it's probably only a week or 2 away, but we are going to LibertyCon
in DC. That's February 7th and 8th in DC. We did this last year, and the results were beyond anything any of us or our wives could have imagined.
We're going to preview that a little bit on this show as well, I think, towards the end, so stick around for that.
But at any rate, you need to get your tickets now. As I was telling folks, it's hard to believe you can get your tickets for less than $25, or last I checked you could. And again, it's like $24.50, but the code is Being Libertarian. It's all one word all together. Put that in the promo code and you'll get the discount.
And that gets you into everything. That gets you like a wristband pass to get in, go to all the speeches, all the breakout sessions, all the Q&As and all that kind of stuff. The opportunity to maybe sit down and hang out with us and have a drink, which is an awesome treat. But you can go in and hear Kane, WWE Superstar, Hall of Famer,
Spike
Mayor
Cohen.
of Knox County, our good friend Spike Cohen from You Are the Power.
And you never know who you're going to run into.
Well, you don't. And I know Abe had some really several big picture opportunities up there last year, and I can't imagine what it'll be like this year, knowing what we know now, and maybe not losing somebody to the hospital at some point.
Well, people are expecting it. People are expecting to say Abe Lincoln again. I know Spike's expecting it. He's been back and forth the past couple of weeks. He's super excited about going and seeing
that beard
us.
is getting thicker. I looked at it. I knew what he was. I knew we've got it's crunch time. We've only got a few weeks left, so.
Well, that's why I went and I got this haircut today right now. That way in about 2 or 3 weeks, it's kind of
it'll be roaring. It'll be roaring.
Look, you just follow along and hold the camera.
That's all I want to do.
Just follow along and hold the camera.
That's all I want.
We will have the cameras by then. So, it's going to be interesting this year with video evidence on top of.
But we're also going to have, some of the being Libertarian, the rest of the guys up there hanging out possibly this go around with us as well.
That's right. Dave and Matt I expect Matt will be up there because he lives not far from there, so he'll be able to drive in. Dave
was he there last year?
He came up. Well, I don't think he
came to the LP National Convention.
That's right. He came to the National Convention in D.C. also. But
and he was on a couple shows. I encourage people to go back and listen to those shows. We had Jeremy Kaufman with Matt and
the Spaces.
No, this was in person.
This was at the LP convention last year. We had some shows with him there, but Matt's our main Twitter or X admin, and so and also Dave is in Central U.S. So I don't know if it's a lot harder for him to get there, but we'll see. We're hoping he'll still be able to make it.
I mean, it's gonna be a blast. So go check it out. Get your tickets there. The wristband will get you all access. We'll talk about that a little bit more towards the end of the show. One thing I wanted to talk about just real quick before we dive into everything, I wanted to say how much fun we had at Crawford and Power at 5 Points Music Sanctuary. We didn't get a chance to talk about that the last couple of shows, but what a performance they put on.
That was right before Christmas,
venue.
Right?
Yeah. You was gone.
Yeah, I was out.
I know. One of these years you're going to have to stay in town and go to this thing with us because it's become like a tradition now.
Well, make sure we don't miss.
They're going to Harvester in March.
Yep.
But the only way I'm going is if they take all the chairs out.
You don't want any chairs?
Dude, it's just terrible. Everybody's sitting down. Them boys, ain't nobody sits down with them boys.
That's true. But the what Tyler was talking about, that nice dinner they have for 5 Points. Don't let me miss that because Christina's already down to go to that.
Yeah. I can't remember when that is. I'm going to have to go check on that, and I'll share that on one of our social media
pages. They do it
at
5 Points?
Yeah, they do a big dinner and they bring big catering. He invited us as guests last year or 2 years
ago. That's why I want to go to this, and I don't want to miss that.
I will. Yeah, I think me and Tara went to it a couple of years ago, and it was it's $100 a plate event. But he generously put us on the list to go in there or whatever, and I share. That's why I share and promote him nonstop. Never asked for anything from him. Everything he's always invited and reached out. And that's why I like going out of my way to make sure people know about that place. And we have such a good time, right?
It's a great venue.
God almighty.
Well, that's why I appreciate him being there. I want to make sure we, support that. And so I did not want to miss that.
Just the shows there, the shows are so intimate. I mean, it's just.
You don't get that kind of venue anywhere.
No. I mean, almost every single time the guys, that are putting on the show, I mean, they interact with the crowd before the show, after the show. I mean, my wife bought the opening act a beer and then come fessed up. It's like, I bought him a beer. I was like, well, I just bought him one. He's drinking the one I bought him.
He's playing you both.
He was great. I mean, it's a great venue. I mean, Tyler's awesome over here.
Yeah, I mean, and he's got the energy and stuff. And now it's to the point after you go back, if you hadn't listened to that show, we had him on 2 or 3, 4 weeks ago or something. Just go look back and find that show if you hadn't listened to it yet. It was phenomenal, dude. And actually, go to the website and search Tyler Gotze. Go back and listen to all the shows with him. He is the most poetic and articulate person I've ever been around in my entire life. And how he, puts things and articulates things, it really makes you think.
We can barely hear.
Well, and apparently AI thinks a lot of him, because we were just messing around with our new setup. We've got the TV and the computer hooked up to it, and I asked AI, this is Microsoft's Copilot, what do you know about the Appalachian Podcast? It says the Appalachian Podcast is dedicated culture and interests within the Appalachian region, cover a wide range of topics from racing and music to food, liquor, and coal country. I mean, that's pretty accurate. Feature notable guests, including Grammy-winning artists and TV personalities. Then down here, recent episodes have included discussions on school choice in America, which was just last week.
Episode, yes.
Right. And
Corey DeAngelis.
And a year in review for 2024 and a Christmas special with Tyler Godsey.
That was with Caleb.
How about that? But they footnote Tyler Godsey, so they know who he is. It's this AI is nuts. It's nuts to see this stuff perform in real time like that.
I'm glad they were so kind and nice to us. Considering we are, for whatever reason, considered, I guess, alt-right or right-wing or whatever the case. We're really not. We're just people. We just, kind of do our own thing. We're pseudo-libertarian, just liberty-minded, most common sense avenue to getting as many of our freedoms as we want. And we pride ourselves on bringing anybody on the show. We've had Black Lives Matter. We've had vice presidential candidates. Mm-hmm. One we very much appreciated. One we didn't care for his running mate at all. But we still brought him on and let him give his word.
That was a good show, too.
It was a phenomenal show. Mike Tremont, he's a former White House economist. And that's why this is so much fun. That's why I appreciate everybody that supports us, because, I think we're becoming more and more of a voice for Appalachia, and being libertarian as a big partner in that and help getting some of our stuff out there and sharing our stuff. Now that you got your Facebook page back and you're able to probably share some of those things once we get the ball rolling over there.
That was
being a legitimate voice in Appalachia is something I never dreamed or imagined we could take this little hobby, but we're there and we have receipts. We will let anybody come on this show and speak their mind, and Black Lives Matter, we've had them on a couple of times and went back and forth, and it's always been respectable. We've, ate a big juicy steak, drank a couple of beers, and hash out our differences, and we walk away shaking hands, and every time we see each other in town, we have respect. Because ultimately, most of the people out there that you're going to talk to, most of them, all kind of have the same goal as you. They just want a nice, clean, peaceful society. They want to be able to make money and raise a family and enjoy it and not break their backs and get killed doing it. They just have different perspectives on how we should get there. And, we're going to have that discussion and leave it up to you. But it's just, it's wild. And, if I had never said it before, just how much I appreciate you and all you and Matt do with sharing our stuff and getting us out there, because there's nobody else. Emerald Robinson is a very, very big name in Appalachia. She's kind of like an investigative reporter, very outspoken, and a lot will consider her friends because she goes hard into vaccines and things like that. But she was ultimately right. She's a coal country Appalachian right down the road from where my wife grew up.
Has she been in some of our spaces before?
She has not joined one of those yet. Okay. I actually need to invite her out for the next one. And actually, I might send her a message and see if she wants to come hang out in D.C.
Yeah, you should.
Because like I said, she is a cold country girl right down the road from where my wife grew up. She's got a massive following, and she is a big voice for Appalachia. She does speak for us. But I don't know that she has a podcast or anything like that. I don't know if she just uses her platform to push some Appalachian things at times, but I don't think she, it's not her main focus or anything, but she's actually agreed to come on the show. And so I'm hoping we're going to get her up to the cabin very soon. She's a big voice, but there really is nobody out there. There isn't. Right. There isn't anybody out there. It's just people of the people that are successful, but have also known what it's like to struggle, who have earned our keep, speaking for the common man of Appalachia. Nobody's doing it.
Well, and we need those people, like you're inviting her to DC. We need just the people listening to this show. Consider coming up there. Consider coming up there and seeing us and seeing what that event has to offer, because that's how you'll make connections that are like-minded. People talk about being in your tribe, or some being with people that you appreciate. Well, that's one way to do it. Go to a Libertarian conference or a Liberty conference, see what speaks to you, and reach out to the people there, because there's all those people there internationally that come for this conference. So, there's somebody there for everybody. And, that we just really can't say enough about it. That I just want people that listen to the show to be able to come out and enjoy that too, because it would be cool to have this.
Students for Liberty. Make sure that's what you're looking up. Mm-hmm. Students for Liberty.
LibertyCon.com.
LibertyCon, Students for Liberty.
I took pictures with students from countries that I never even heard of, didn't even know it was a country.
Well, and they all came up because they're like, I know you, you're Abe Lincoln. I mean, they knew the icon. That's one of the few icons of America that they knew.
Yeah.
Being from another country, they recognized you, and that's why they were so excited.
I mean, that one group, I had no idea that Abe Lincoln was 150.
Mm-hmm. Is that old?
They just knew that face, yep, and that he was an icon of America. Because then one boy, when we went to the bar, the one boy, he was down on his knees.
It was wild.
And I was like, no, they killed him 100 years ago. And he was like, no. Probably knew about 5 words, but it was great. How many different countries is it 96 different countries?
85 or 90
it's close to
represented
100
there. We actually got invited to all go out to Students for Liberty in Eastern Hemisphere, I believe it was, to Georgia.
Georgia.
I was like, nah,
not the state.
Right,
yeah,
in Russia.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll be doing that.
That guy was great. Loved
there's
him.
There's a good chance we're probably not coming home from that trip.
Yeah. I think it's a good chance we wouldn't make it home from that trip. They probably wouldn't let us get on a plane back.
No.
They probably wouldn't let us get on a plane to leave.
They
would look at us and say, Greece? I don't know if that's a good idea or not.
But yeah, if you do come hang out and come, if we're working or whatever, we might not get a chance to talk to everybody because we're going to be doing shows, we'll be interviewing people, we're going to be talking to people. But late night when everything's closed down, you can guarantee we'll be walking around hanging out or whatever, and having a drink, having a smoke outside or whatever. Come up to us, hang out, talk. We'll talk. That's what we're all about. We want to learn about you. We want to, tell your story. We want to talk about the region
and some of that same, the way we are, is what gives me hope with Trump's administration. When was the last time you can remember, a president-elect sitting down with Fetterman, which was the biggest name in politics 2 years ago when he ran, and he had just had his stroke.
Because he couldn't complete a sentence. It wasn't because he was...
Well, that's all right.
But that's the reason.
Trust me. Back then, I said a whole lot of things. But, and they asked him about his meeting with Fetterman, Trump. And he was like, man, he was great. He was like, I loved him. Mm-hmm. He was like, he ain't a Republican and he ain't a Democrat.
He's the only moderate.
He was like, he's a common sense man.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, and Trump was, you can tell when Trump's full of Trump and when Trump's, he fully enjoyed his conversation with Fetterman. Now, whoever thought that would be the case, but because I see Trump is just like we are, Trump don't care where you stand as long as your comments. And that kind of shows, who would have ever thought that a Republican getting elected as president would ever sit down with, or have in his administration, 2 people that ran for president as a Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
And RFK and...
Because he's a Democrat.
Huh?
He's a Democrat. He's a 90s
Libertarian.
Democrat.
Yes.
He is close to Libertarian, but he is not Libertarian because Libertarian doesn't give him the benefits of his business acumen.
He's a little too much into the federal government to be truly Libertarian, but he has shown incredibly good signs that he has very libertarian leaning views on several good issues.
And that's why I say that his mindset's that.
And one is, the Libertarian Party has hitched their wagons to Trump freeing Ross Ulbricht in his first, in one of his first days in office. And so I really, really hope that happens because, they've caught a lot of flack for the position they've taken in sort of helping Trump get elected. And so I hope that works out. I hope it works out for him.
That's the website guy.
Yeah, Silk Road.
That's right.
Well, here's my thing on that. I really do truly and honestly hope that he does pardon him. And I hope a couple of these other people get pardoned. But at the end of the day, honestly, if that's all he ended up doing as a concession to the Libertarians, that really is a throwaway kind of thing. I mean, obviously nobody should be in prison unjustly. I think he is in prison unjustly. I think he should have been out. He didn't really commit a crime as far as I saw. Nothing that would give him what he has gotten. But if this is the most important thing you have on your table, I think you got to go a little bit higher than just one person, because they're just going to say, oh, one person, no big deal. People should be demanding that the Epstein files are released. Well, people should be demanding that the P. Diddy files are released. Like, we should know who Ghislaine Maxwell has been in prison for like 3-4 years, however long it is now, for trafficking children to absolutely nobody.
Well, in that one, you don't even have to ask. They have said unequivocally. I mean, that was one of those, last 2 weeks leading up to the election things that they come out and said, which again, I've lived that personally, because in the first election, Trump retweeted us at Being Libertarian about a week leading up to the election because he wanted that libertarian vote. And I remember it was just some kind of generic comment that we made, but he retweeted it, and that showed that he was trying to angle at that. And so he did the same thing this round. The last 2 weeks leading up. He took a bigger
step, though. He actually came to the convention.
That's right.
A place that he very well likely knew he was going to get booed.
But he did that everywhere. I mean, the black journalist thing, that he went to, and I mean, they just rashed him up one side now. I mean, some of them did, but that's why I can't view him as a politician. I view him as a businessman, and I feel like in my mind, he got to the top of his game in business, and he did. I mean, if you were a business mogul, he was at the top of the list. And then you maybe on a hold my beer, watch this moment, decide to run for president. And the way everything after then COVID hit, he has a big chip on his shoulder. And, now he knows more about Washington than he did. Now he ain't trusting the Christopher Wrays and the Dr. Fauci's. That's why he put together his whole team at his place in Mar-a-Lago, refused to turn over who he wanted, because you have to do that for government funds. I don't need your government funds. I'm putting in place who I want, how I want. That's why he's went from Tulsi Gabbard to RFK to Pete
Hegseth. Yep.
Because I'm running this like my business. And that to him is his personal. He personally feels like I've done everything I can do in the business world. The only thing I haven't accomplished is proven that America needs to be run like a business. To me, that is his whole thing. And he could care less whether the JFK files are released. He don't, I mean, if it was up to him, I think he would. But obviously there's other government agencies will redact so much of stuff.
Well, he's going to have pressure that he didn't have the first time around, because again, he said that unequivocally that he would release several of these files.
Well, even RFK wants to see the files released, and I think if anybody out there is going to, have some say so on the matter,
there'll be pressure, because there's actually video or writing of him demanding that, or saying that would happen at this point. So the second term of Trump will be interesting. We don't have this often in American politics anyway, where you have a break in between.
It's only been once, right?
Somebody's first and second term. So
Garfield, Cleveland.
What an experience he's going to get to have in terms of having the ability to see what happened first term and either correct it or not. But it seems like he's going a very specific direction, especially with these cabinet picks.
Well, on that, so I guess we're going to jump right into the kind of the theme of this show, and that is, what can we kind of expect in his first 100 days? I mean, what has he come out and promised? What do you think might be a wild card that might happen? I think, honestly, day one, there's going to mass pardons for J6ers and things of that nature. They're probably coming, and rightfully so. It's disgusting seeing these people compare that day to some of the most horrific events in American history. Call it an insurrection where people were trying to overthrow a government. They were essentially completely unarmed. That's just not how insurrections work. That's just not how they work. People don't walk in and follow through the safety barriers and walk through what are they called? The
turnstiles.
Yeah, the turnstiles. Are walking in between those and everything. That's not an insurrection. So it's disingenuous. It's a slap in the face. We've got to stop
Well, that's why it's going to be so interesting to actually see what he does, because he has made promises one way and said things like, in relation to the J6 folks, he said he's going to look at those case by case, is what he said. But everybody expects, as you just said, that he would blanket pardon all of them. So it's going to be interesting to see, because which direction is he going to take? Which path is he going to go? Is he going to go the way, we all think he wants to go, or is he going to actually do it case by case and try to be moderate with it to try and pull in some of these edge
I don't
folks?
think so, because this is a lame duck session for him as anyway. If
it
he
is,
should come out
it is.
guns a-blazing and say, I'm going straight for it right now, try and stop me. Lame duck. I'm not worried about it. I've made these promises. I'm getting them done right now.
Except for his legacy,
That's
which
right.
is clearly important to him, and who comes next?
Hell,
Who's the next Trump? Who's the next Trump acolyte? I mean, that he's setting this up to have
but when
a
he
legacy.
comes out guns a-blazing right out of the gate and starts doing exactly what he said he was going to do, that's going to make other people start thinking, well, shit, he ain't messing around. Let's start thinking about ways we can negotiate. And apparently he's the ultimate negotiator is what they say. So now he's already got them where he wants them.
Well, if you've had Jeff, Zuckerberg spent $400 million of his own money trying to put,
the person into office that he actually came out and said was forcing him
4 years ago
to suppress stories.
So, well, he'd actually not Biden. Trump, he went more local. Like he pushed all that money in more local areas. I hope Trump don't come out on day one and pardon all the Jan 6ers.
Mm-hmm.
Because I hope that Trump has some people in his orbit to completely look at all the facts of that.
That's been 4 years. They should already been looked into it. They should know who is ready to go and who isn't.
Yeah, but they'll find
this point in time,
at this point in time,
he should already have a list ready to go. They should know all of these things.
And maybe he does.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So I'm saying we shouldn't really hopefully see a lot of feet dragging.
But it's been that long, but we just found out how many feds were there that day.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We don't have a clue what all went on behind the scenes there. We've been given a snapshot of an instance. I mean, we don't have a clue how deep that goes. And so, it's hard. I agree with you. I think he has to say what he said, which is let's do it case by case. But again, it would not surprise me if he came out and blanket pardoned all of them at the same time. It just,
well, that's what I'm saying. And he'll probably have receipts to back it up to say, we've already looked into this. We had people looking into this all along. This is because we were looking after our people and we were taking care of you and we knew. And that's a big boost in him, because now people think, okay, he does actually care.
But I think that'll be a good indication of how this whole term is going to go.
But I think there's also ways, when you say a blanket pardon, I think there's ways for him. Look, there is rules. And, the dude that came in wearing fur with the horns and went up and put his feet up on Pelosi's desk or whatever, he was harmless as a flea. But, they hit him hard. Mm-hmm. But there's also...
Because he became a symbol.
There's also ways...
He dared become a symbol.
There's also ways to say, yes, you broke the law. There's rules against that. But did you deserve what you got?
Mm-hmm.
Think about all the people that have went in and sat in there and laid down in the floors over climate change and all. That's illegal, just as illegal as every one of them that got arrested for being in there.
Mm-hmm.
But, expunge some of that stuff. I ain't saying you got to pardon but if he puts the right people, or maybe already has, some of these people, hey, I'm not going to pardon you because you did wrong. I will expunge this, or, there's a case by case that he can do that.
Yep.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I don't really think, no matter what it is, there's any crime out there that would warrant any of them being in jail this long at this point in time.
But on the flip side of that,
all of them need to be out. The only death that occurred that day was Ashley Babbitt, a Air Force veteran who was apparently, she was telling people to not do this, not do the bad things that were going on. She just happened to pop her head up, and for some stupid reason, a Capitol policeman decided to start shooting in that direction without really knowing.
Well, he straight shot her,
and he hasn't. Yeah, and he hasn't been charged. That's the only death that happened there that day. So
he's been cleared.
At the end of the day, nothing happened in there that should require anybody to still be in prison or jail at this point in time. That's why I masked blanket, even if it was trespassing, even if it was destruction of property, that doesn't warrant 4 years in prison.
That's
Enrico
right.
Tarrio is spending 22 years in prison. He wasn't even there, just off text messages. This shows that the system is completely corrupted, and this system needs to be dismantled and stomped out because there's no reason a man should be in jail for 22 years for sending text messages saying he's somehow connected to an insurrection. It's not even an insurrection. It's unarmed. I'm sorry. Stop using this rhetoric. You do it to get into people's heads, on your side. And we've got to stand up and say, fuck off with this and stop with it. I mean, it wasn't insurrection. And
that's
using that language is really causing a lot of damage because people won't tell them to shut up, F up and stop.
Well, and that's why Trump's reaction and how he deals with that is going to tell you, it's going to set the tone for how he's going to run things.
But I just really hope that, yes, I think he will. Well, clearly, let's be honest. He got caught. I mean, he's caught up in, charges on the same day. And clearly, he didn't say go down there and storm the, everything that they claimed, that didn't happen. And at the same time, to me, we've all seen the hundreds and hundreds of videos of Ray. Hey, you go down now. We know full well who Ray was.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. That's the ones that's got to be held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
The people was up. None of them people that was there that day was looking to overthrow no government. They were all wound tight from having a good time. The Capitol Police, there's plenty of videos inviting them in,
They were arresting grandmas 2 years later, coming in and raiding their homes with guns ablazing and this kind of whole deal. They were doing that to elderly people that were just walking around that day because they had all this video evidence they could zoom in on because DC is such a heavily guarded and but they can't figure out who laid that pipe bomb, right down the road, in front of was it DNC headquarters that they put it out or whatever. Yeah. You can't find that person.
Well, they just released everywhere. A new video just this past month. So why haven't we seen that video until, now?
Well, we've only seen a minuscule of the videos.
Right.
If you shoot a insurance CO in the back, they can find video of you going into they know, you can find video of every street he was on, every chain, they can do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the video's there, or it was at one point.
Right.
I feel like that whole day was that was their guarantee to never have to deal with the conservative the conservative movement.
Mm-hmm.
They felt like that they could squash the liberals felt like that was their chance to squash that movement forever.
Well, they didn't have anything else at that time.
January 6th. Oh, yeah.
Because they could lock anybody and everybody that was on camera. They went after, bank account. They asked banks, not, hey, what did Mr. Slater, Mr. Riddle, or Mr. Anybody that made purchases that was from out of town, we want to see them now. They went after anything and everything they could find.
Well, it also gave them a contrived reason to impeach Trump. And they just, it just developed out of that.
It wasn't to impeach him, it was to convict Trump.
Well, it was to make him look bad as well.
No, it was to impeach him. The lawfare stuff didn't come back until he came back for re-election.
That's right.
That was what came back, was so,
After January 6th really, but January 6th wasn't about Trump. It was about his followers, to squash his followers, thinking he wasn't going to come back.
Yeah, if you ever show up and support him again, we'll all throw you in jail just like
right. If he had never come back for re-election, they never would have brought charges
Absolutely
against
not.
him. That's how that was contrived and created, because there was no timeline unless he comes back for re-election that gets done.
And it's no accident that New York State brought the charges instead of the feds, because knowing that a state charge can't be pardoned. And it's also no mistake that judge wanted to sentence him because a convicted felon can't vote, so he can't even vote in the midterms.
Yeah. Yeah,
But it all blew up in their face, I think, one way, shape, or form.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Whether Trump won this election or not, the message was there. It was loud and clear that people were sick and tired of this nonsense. People were paying attention. They weren't fooled. There was a lot of energy there. We can kind of sit here and speculate on what he may or may not do over the next, his first 100 days. But there are a couple of issues that we can maybe speculate what we think may or may not happen. One of them, the biggest one, in my opinion, is Ukraine and Russia. Does he go in, and is that done for in the first 100 days of his administration?
I think there's a pretty good chance of that, although the way he's kind of interacting with Mike Johnson, that makes me wonder if that's going to be the case. Because Mike Johnson seemingly still doesn't have a problem sending just billions and billions of dollars to Ukraine for whatever reason. So I don't know. I know that in terms of immigration, I guess what we can look at in terms of what he's actually said he would do. Immigration, he says he plans to close the U.S.-Mexico border and reinstate travel bans and start mass deportations. So do you expect that he's going to, live up to that? Do you think that's going to happen? It seems like that's the expectation.
Oh, closing the border, at least the Texas part of it, for damn certain. Because, Abbott, and I got a friend that owns a huge ranch right on the Mexican border.
And that guy's just gung-ho who he appointed for that job.
Well,
I can't think of his name. I can see him.
Yeah.
He's all bent.
But he's real.
Right.
It's just, yeah. I'm going to tell you, if you have the grit and gut to go after Ritchie Brothers Auction Company, which, that's a good company. Ritchie Brothers, big commercial equipment and stuff. I know friends that have consolidated through them. Great company. But the government, all that border wall, they were getting them to auction it off. Mm-hmm. And they were selling it so cheap that Ritchie Brothers was just buying it. They were selling it cheaper than scrap steel price. So they were buying it and then going to auction it off. They didn't care if they got scrap price for it. Mm-hmm. And when everybody found out about it and Trump raised Cain, I guess a judge made an injunction, so they had to stop selling it. But Ritchie Brothers went back to Trump and was basically like, look,
we'll sell it back.
Yeah, we'll sell it back to you for what we paid for it. But, we get a government agency call us up. Hey, we're wanting to liquidate all this, excess material. Of course, you're going to, private company there. But we got to. Mm-hmm. A good friend of mine owns a 100,000 acre ranch in Texas. Mm-hmm. You just can't. We can't believe what they've been dealing with. Mm-hmm. Yes, we got to close the border. Mm-hmm. And mass deportations, to a degree, it's got to happen. Mm-hmm. First and foremost, if you're living in a hotel with $1 million in drugs and a couple ARs, just like they caught the dude the other day, no, these people got to go. Mm-hmm. You look at all these crimes that has been reported, from Colorado to the Lake and Riley. This is Venezuela emptied their prisons into America. Yep. And man, they got to go.
So the immigration issue, I think we all agree, Trump in his first 100 days, he'll enact those policies and carry that out. Does that seem consistent?
So how fast do you think that you will see a difference in your daily expenditures and stuff? Do you think that companies will do projections and lower prices basically instant? If he goes in right off the rip and cuts regulations and does this and does this, is that how fast is the reflection? Are we going to see the reflection?
Yeah, because it's just like the market. It's just like the stock market. If it will react to him doing any of these executive orders, that's what it does. So yeah, if he comes in and, like he says, does all these sweeping regulations to cut a ton of red tape that seem to open up more investment, I think you're going to see the reaction to that immediately.
Like within a month or two. Like gas prices, like how fast do you see gas prices drop?
I mean,
because it's all on speculation.
Well, but something like gas prices are hard because that's global. I mean, there could be some conflicts that interact with that.
But if he instantly signs orders opening up exploration and stuff,
Right.
and these oil companies know that, man, boom, we got a chance to.
Well, that's
they already know. They're already in place. They already know.
That's new competition. So
so
that would drop.
how fast do they drop their prices?
Day one.
Oh yeah,
day one they start working again. I say you'll see a significant.
It's a market that would be quick.
4 months.
You'd see that quick.
So you think by what you're saying, if it's going to be a success and he's doing what he says he's going to do by Memorial Day,
you'll see something.
You'll see movement.
Sure. Yeah, but again, it's going to be really hard to tell specifically what's his and what is coming off of just these horrific policies. Which again, it's just the idea you don't have Biden in there. It's one day without Biden is worth a shitload in market. I mean, just because, the investment that they have to worry about him doing some kind of crazy shit. Yeah, because they have to worry about what kind of crazy, like, he's going to say, we don't have an oil industry anymore. We're going to take this industry out. They have to worry about him doing some stupid shit like that and just, crushing the market.
How many of them's going to die from holding their breath from now to the 20th? I mean, because every day he comes out and does something dumb.
Well, and
sign something stupid.
And the other side of that is Trump he does not need to come out of a bunker for a week. I mean, we need to keep that man alive till we get there.
Well, he's not hardly coming out. There's so many people going to Mar-a-Lago that.
And that's the way it should be. He needs to take very good care of himself right now because that's
he doesn't need to be anywhere near DC.
No, even Musk has said he's worried about the president's safety right now before the 20th.
It does scare me.
I mean, this climate, you can't not be worried about something crazy.
Look, I will say this, about Donald Trump. He looks genuine. I've seen enough videos here and there of his moments and whatnot, but I do know somebody who has worked security for him before. I think everybody in this room has probably met that person. And I've asked him before, I was like, is he really that genuine dude who walks around and hands people $100 bills and really talks to everybody from the CEO down to the janitor or whatever? He was like, dude, he's unreal. Mm-hmm. He really is that genuine person. He's that, and whether he, and I think you have to be. I think people want to say, oh, it's just an act. It's just an act. You can't fake remembering all of these people's names at all your different hotels that are cleaning toilets. And he'll go back to one of his places somewhere, obscure he ain't been to in 2 years. And he'll remember the person who was a janitor there and he'll say their name when he walks up to them. Like you can't fake that genuine. I mean, I guess unless
because he's not he's not fake. He's not the guy,
So that little bit gives me hope, but everything else against him, the entire machine, the entire establishment, 100 years of regulations and bureaucratic nonsense, and a big blob just growing and growing and growing and having leeches mooch off of it. People depended on it. Those people in the Matrix that want you to die because you are trying to save them. It is an awful lot he is going up against one person, but he does have a nice army, I guess, so to speak, of people on his side. He's got a lot of momentum in his direction, but make no mistake, this is not an easy fight right here. I mean, if this is what they're claiming it is, I mean, this is nationalism going against totalitarian globalism, essentially.
That's right.
Well, what's the liberal ass guy that, I don't know, he's like a late night guy, Hollywood guy.
Kimmel?
No.
John Oliver, the Brit.
No, the dude.
John Stewart.
Yeah, is it John Stewart?
Depends
but
on
he had this dude,
Colbert.
I think it's Stewart. Like he's one, he cusses a bunch.
You probably, because rest of them are on network.
But like, don't mind calling some shit out as he sees.
Yeah.
Bill Maher?
Bill Maher.
Okay.
So he had this guy on, I've just seen a clip of it. And basically, it was like, this liberal Democrat. And he basically looked at me. He's like, if y'all don't get your shit together, y'all going to be just like the Whigs. Mm-hmm. Political parties disappear. And for way too long, the Democrat Party has all been about, they went from friend of the farm. Well, I don't even believe that. But, they went from the friend of the farmer to anti anything that's not tree hugging, climate change, electric vehicles. Mm-hmm. And he was like, you can't, that's what happened to the Whigs. You know, they never evolved with the times.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the common people ain't going to vote for that.
Well, and you talk about Bill Maher. I've come a long way on Bill, but he has a Netflix special right now. It's brand new. It's absolutely worth watching because it's actually a moderate Democrat taking shots at the establishment Democrats, and he's exactly right on everything he says. So I'd absolutely recommend watching that. It's on Netflix, but it's worth checking out to see just how far that party has fallen.
Well, I like. Look, I don't care what you stand for. You know, have conversations with other people about it. You know,
Exactly.
We were talking earlier about Black Lives Matter coming on and all that. That's the only way that you really have any understanding of what you really think you believe.
Right. And how can you actually believe what you believe if your views aren't challenged? You know,
that's right.
They have to be challenged to actually be legitimate, because otherwise you're believing what somebody else told you.
But I mean, most people just cannot have a conversation with somebody that they feel like they might disagree with.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the biggest problems that I see, because I don't know how you fix that. That's like a societal drift, because, you know, even in Roman times, they had salons that people got together just to talk about shit, just to argue, because it was healthy, like to actually find the holes in things, to find what logically makes sense, or to round about what makes sense in a certain situation. You need that input. You need that, you know, sort of chiseling, and we don't have that anymore because people get offended.
And that's right there is a problem.
It is a problem. You know,
I mean, I've had so many conversations with, you know, even like Billy up the wood shop, and he goes down one of his stupid purple smoked rabbit holes. And, you know, I disagree with every damn thing he says.
Mm-hmm.
But I listen. But at the end of the conversation, my view of that may have changed just a little bit.
Because you can see where he might have.
I will glean some stuff out of him that, you know, but if you don't take the time to do that,
right?
You know, you don't even know what you believe.
That's right.
And I think that's the sad. But when you have a public school system, and I hope to God that Trump and them go. I hope that the education system gets just
push back to the states. It needs the federal part needs to get taken out. And it needs to get pushed back to the states.
I mean, we got to change that, or we're losing stuff bad.
And it sounds like he has support for that, which is just, if he does, it's mind blowing to me. Because when I got into libertarianism, that was always one of the big things. It's like, oh, you know, get rid of the Department of Education. And, you know, when you come into this from the outside, you're like, that's crazy, but it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, when you actually look into it, actually, you know, once again, real quick, shout out to Corey DeAngelis.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back a couple of episodes down, we had him on a Spaces on X. We actually originally planned on that Spaces to kind of really dive deep into LibertyCon and talk about how we were going to be hanging out up there. And Corey just kind of stole the show and talks a lot of it. Amos, honestly, if you're ever going to listen to a show, go back and listen.
I've listened to a few of them.
Go back and listen to that one with Corey, because me and Chip really didn't talk a lot. We just kind of asked Corey a few questions. And, dude, I mean, he's super
He's so natural. He's on Fox Business all the time, and he's just natural at it. You can tell that he's gotten better at it.
Corey DeAngelis.
DeAngelis.
He's going to be at LibertyCon as well.
He's on Fox Business. I already know. I mean, I know his face.
He's going to be at LibertyCon as well, hanging out. And now that he had that big Spaces with us, well, you know, maybe we'll get him to come on the show. We should actually reach out to him ahead of time to see if we can work something out.
I'm sure he will. He started with us. Like we knew him back on Being Libertarian. I mean, probably 8 or 9 years ago, and he's always sent us stuff to share, and we've shared his stuff along the way. So I'm sure we helped him get there on that Fox.
Really, really.
When y'all did that, the space did one of y'all post a picture of like all the Amish guys watching the cops put their kids on? Somebody just shared that picture.
I don't know.
I don't think that was us.
And I thought about that because, like, you know, all the German Baptists, they all homeschool.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, there was several states, this was back late 80s, early 90s, where they mandated the kids had to go to public school. And
I shared that one, I think.
Yeah.
Actually.
And, like, I mean, that was a scary time. I mean, I was growing up, that was a scary time. Like, my parents, like, everybody.
Because they went to jail. A lot of them went to jail for it, didn't they?
Well, the cops came. I mean, they come and took the kids out of the house and put them on school buses at the end of the driveway.
Think about the end of the day, how disgusted that is.
Oh, it's hard to imagine it now. It's hard to fathom that.
They still do that in a heartbeat, though.
Oh, they would.
Guarantee if you were part of the public,
they could.
if you were part, no, they will. If you were part of the, they won't do it in big groups anymore. They pick you out one by one. If you were like somebody that has a child in the public school system and they miss however many days, whatever the case may be, they will come.
That's different.
It's not different.
Yes, it is. If you're a parent and your child is supposed to be going to school and your child has missed a third of the school year, you got to be held accountable for that.
What if
I was homeschooled. I wasn't missing a third of the school.
What if your child being home a third of the year, 2/3 of the year, still would perform better on tests than the other children? What if if you're
that's a
sick?
different story.
Okay, well then it should be a case by case basis. If your child is sick or something and they miss quite a bit, there has been instances. And by the way, go check out Spike Cohen at You Are the Power. He will show you instances where there are people.
I'm not saying there
are people out there that if you do miss more than 10 or 12 days and it's an illness, a documented illness, for whatever crazy reason, some of these agencies, CPS and Department of Health and Human Services, will still come in and maybe take you to court and remove your kids because they missed X amount of days, even though you have a legitimate reason. So the power shouldn't be there is all I'm saying.
Maybe, maybe not. So CPS comes in because somebody from that school called CPS. On the flip side of that, and you well know, I got a family member that in the school system. I also know teachers that have hair product and combs in their bag when they go to school in the morning because they know that one of their students is getting up and dressing herself at a young age, and they get that child and make sure her hair's combed before class without CPS involved. So, but at some point, if you are a teacher and you know that there's some serious things going on, at some point, somebody has to step in. That child's better off in foster care than it is in them situations. Does that get abused? Yes. But where do you draw the line? Because, I mean, I can tell you right now, in a elementary school that's not an inner city. I mean, I got another good friend at inner city. Them teachers, a lot of them, take care of them children like we don't know. But if you also are seeing things that a child coming to school that is clearly getting abused, you got to have, I mean, somebody's got to step in. It ain't like that teacher can step in.
Yeah.
She can go home and cry about it that night. So, I mean, there's got to be, but that also gets abused big time as well.
Yeah, that system's mess. It's a messy system, but I agree with you. I mean, you got to have a system.
I've had CPS at my house.
Something, yeah.
Because we were abusing our daughter just because a neighbor got mad at my wife. Next thing I know, we got CPS on the back door, wanting to swab us for drug testing, wanting to take my daughter in a back room and talk to her in private, and all the while showing this lady text messages on the phone where the mad neighbor said, I called CPS just to F with y'all because y'all pissed me off. And
the line should be common sense. The line should be common sense.
Doesn't that sound like a problem, though?
Yes, that is a problem.
So
that's a big problem. And I called my attorney, and he said, well, this was before we met with her. And he was like, listen, you got to meet with her. If not, she'll get a court order.
Right, when they presume the worst.
Now, she came back, no, this is not going on. But that is also recorded.
Sure it is.
That CPS visited that house.
It's an agency, yeah.
So but that goes back to where everything's got to be scaled back into proportion. Yeah, you got to be able to use common sense. You shouldn't have regulations and guidelines to the point where it's completely ludicrous.
Big government seems to always be the problem, even on a local or smaller level.
What Ronald Reagan say?
The bigger government, yeah. We're from the government. We're here to help.
The scariest words of his.
It is, but it's true. Let's finish out what we were talking about with Trump.
I do want to say real quick, and I've said this on the show before, and somebody tell me if I'm wrong, but before we jump to the next thing when it comes to immigration, tell me how simple this plan is. You call up every single country that has, thousands of people here. You say, especially like somebody like Venezuela, where we know they dumped the prisons. We know they sent their convicted felons here, their mental cases. You start sending military, commercial jets, planes into this country. You start getting these people and taking them home, or we stop funding whatever we fund to you, because we're giving every single country out there money. We're going to stop giving you money, and then we're going to look at you as an invading force because you are sending people in our country to invade us, and that opens up a lot of options. And they might think Trump's just crazy enough to go do something crazy over that thing. They will be lining up through every single Air Force base in this country to go pick those people up and take them home.
Yeah, that's what he's
going
to
do. We ain't got to spend no
already
money.
Started.
He's going to convince them to come get
it. The back and forth has already begun with South American countries in terms of, and different ones are, posturing. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because you've got some that are holding a hard line already, and some that are just, trying to see how much he's bluffing and how much he's not.
Holding a hard line till he convinces a bunch of the big companies in Mexico to come home.
Sure.
Then, immigration is going to be, that's a real difficult thing to deal with all the way across the board. And I'm conflicted on, I got friends that's been here for 15, 18 years that are undocumented, illegal. And, they pay taxes every year. They can never draw Social Security, but they've paid into it.
They're paying into it.
And, but when he says mass, he's married to an immigrant. I'm not, but when he says mass deportations, that's a scary way to put it, but he's not that guy that anybody and everybody. Well, if you're not paying your way, if you're draining tax dollars to live in hotels and with no future in sight, or you're committed a crime, by Felicia.
Well, and the resources don't exist for it to be just blanket. He's gonna, he's gonna have to. It's gonna have to be, he's gonna have to make some concessions in terms of who he chooses to do it. And I think you're exactly right. They're set up to do it that way. With the economy, I think he aims to extend his 2017 tax cut, the Trump tax cuts. He expects to extend those, although I think he needs Congress to do that. So, like you talked about, I wonder how much he's going to be doing by executive order if he doesn't get his way in Congress, which unfortunately that's always an expansion of power. Unfortunately.
But do you think he does stuff by executive order until he can convince Congress to pass it?
He could. That seems to be sort of the new play is, even if something's unconstitutional or you don't know if you can get away with it, you just do it and then, make them take you to court to stop it. So he may do that. It's going to be interesting to see just how far we keep pushing executive orders.
And if he lowers the corporate tax rate, I think he can really lower it and make more money, turn out more revenue.
Well, there's going to be more investment.
Yeah. And it's already showing. The guy from Japan, what did he, was $100 billion that he's wanting to invest. But I guarantee you that handshaking that $100 billion is contingent on a certain drop the corporate tax rate to this. And I think that doing that will really expand it. I think that it'll expand the economy.
I agree with you. We're going to have, small businesses, which have basically been, just decimated for the past 4 years, are now going to flourish again, seemingly. So hopefully we get those policies coming back. I know he's mentioned that he's preparing about 100 executive orders for his first day. So it's going to be interesting to see what all he does.
My wife said the other night, man, he's going to get writer's cramp.
He's already got it.
But I think that's what he has to do.
Well, it's gotten so bad. How else are you going to roll back these horrific DEI policies?
That's what how many did Biden sign on the first day? But that's just terrible. If you get into the rut of just executive order after executive order, because the next president comes in and just reverses that, but if you can't have a Congress to work together.
That's right.
And that's why I hope that a lot of the congressmen, congresswomen have the ability to look at a greater good. I don't 100% agree with what this is, but
you're a pragmatist.
We got to roll some stuff back here and before we can critique. Just like you got to close the border before you can control all the mess in all these cities. And because if not, I mean, it don't do no good to catch a fish on one end of the pond and run around to the other end and throw it in.
They're
Think
still
you
coming
can't
in.
get back.
Yeah.
We got to have borders. We got to get under control.
Mm-hmm.
And, everybody like Elon Musk and them got all upset about the H1, the visas, the H1.
Oh, yeah.
One. And we need the brightest and best coming from other countries to here.
Mm-hmm.
We need them.
Absolutely. So they don't go somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of World War II, we were smart enough to go after the scientists and engineers, not the ammunition.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I want the smartest and brightest coming in here.
Sure.
Because if I look at the smartness of the world, America's not on top right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we got, Asians that are killing us, when it comes to engineering and medical field. I want them here.
Sure.
So, but then there's people that, want to get rid of that. No, I mean, I just hope there's a lot of people find a lot of common sense in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the guard's changing slowly, and I don't care if you're a Fetterman, if you got common sense.
That's right.
I want us to have everybody from Thomas Massey to Fetterman. I mean, I can kind of do without Cory Booker and a few of them, but get rid of the mindset of I can't agree with nobody but my party. That's what's got to get away.
Well, unfortunately, it's, Fetterman stands out because there's nobody else like him. There are no more moderates left. Everybody's been pushed to one side or the other, and that's ultimately the problem. Fetterman seems to be just breath of fresh air, but he's literally just the old yellow dog Democrat. I mean, that's what he is. So it's interesting to see the goalposts move just with one election.
Right, and you were saying Pete had said today Tim Kaine was giving him a rash,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
about his infidelity.
Yeah, he's Virginia guy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then you just said that the House passed.
Now this is the state house.
Yeah,
the state.
But Tim Kaine's Virginia.
He's
part of the
U.S.
federal.
He's
yeah,
U.S.
yeah,
Yep.
That's fine.
Yep.
What I'm saying is you want to give him a rash of shit
I
over infidelity, but yet your state and a law that you back, you agree with,
True.
is passing a law that nobody can do. I mean, abortion should be whatever. I mean, legal no matter what.
Yeah. So what we're talking about is the Virginia State House today passed a constitutional amendment that basically
Not a law, an amendment.
No, a constitutional amendment. And this is the thing in Virginia, the governor. Everybody's like, well, the governor will veto it. The governor has no say over a constitutional amendment. There's a very specific path for that.
And to pass an amendment, you have to have 60%.
I think it's just a majority, which they have in both a slim, but they have a majority in the House and the Senate. So they're going to get it passed here, or they did pass it recently. I want to say specifically what it is. Hold on, I'll tell you. It is House Democrats just pushed through a constitutional amendment to enshrine no limits abortion in Virginia's Constitution. So that will be enshrined in the Constitution, not immediately. There's a process that I understand. You're going to have one more convening of the state legislature, and then the next legislature after that. I think if they pass it as well, then it becomes a constitutional amendment. So
why is that not voted? Why is that not voted on?
Well, and I
by the state.
Yeah, it may. I don't know.
There should be a referendum by the people.
It could be. This might put it on the ballot for people. Or it might this vote might put that issue on the ballot for the people to decide it. And I mean, think about it. You got the cities and the hot spots in the state of Virginia, Northern Virginia, the beaches. I mean, they would probably carry that vote.
It wasn't Tim Kaine. It wasn't Tim Kaine. Who's running against Youngkin?
Oh,
Northam.
Yeah, Terry
McAuliffe.
Terry McAuliffe. Yeah, McAuliffe was governor previously and ran for a second term after.
Was it him or Tim Kaine? Like during the interview, that was like when they asked him, what if there's a botched abortion?
That was McAuliffe.
Yeah.
No, that was Northam.
Or Ralph Northam. That's who I thought.
Northam. Okay, yeah.
But
because he was a doctor.
when you sit there,
pediatrician too, sick bastard.
When you sit there and say, you know, if the baby's alive, you know, we leave it, you know, whatever on the table, keep it comfortable until the doctor and the parents have, or the doctor and the mother has a conversation. You know, when you have a state politician that is willing to say, we'll keep it comfortable until the mama says, no, kill it, and then we'll finish knocking it off. It really is, really shouldn't surprise me that they would pass something like that. Is just so atrocious in my mind.
Yeah, and I'd had a heads up on this. Some of the state legislators that I have talked to before they left for Richmond the last couple of weeks knew about this. I mean, they said we can't stop it. You know, they knew this was coming, so this was no surprise to them because that was my first question. I said, well, the governor can just veto it. They're like, no, the governor has no role in a constitutional amendment.
So why didn't like the more conservative House members speak out, make this a big deal in Virginia?
I'm asking.
It's a good question. Well,
but, I mean, you can't use the legacy media for it.
That's it.
So you got to be able to have media outlets that will push the story.
We should have probably pushed it when I heard about it.
I never heard it. Like, I never even knew that anything was coming up like this. But the states are good at doing that.
Oh, sure.
Just like Minnesota right now. You know, right now, Minnesota has a majority Republicans in the House, state House, because one of the Democrats that got elected in November, they booted out because he was illegal to be voted in. So all the Democrats, and Tampon Tim has encouraged them all not to show up. They're not going to show up for the first 2 weeks until this special election happens. They're hoping that it's a Democrat leaning, because if so, right now Republicans hold the majority, and they get to set all the rules for this state Congress. So, but if none of the Democrats show up, that keeps the Republicans from setting the rules until this election happens, hoping that whoever gets elected. You know, if you're working for the will of the people of your state, none of that should even be happening.
It's children. That is absolute children playing with people's lives.
It's not children. Children play way nicer than that.
You're right.
That's evil.
It's evil ignorance, and it's despicable, but it sadly is not surprising.
Well, I have a lot of hope. I mean, the next 4 years are going to be something to watch, because I have a lot of hopes in what I'm seeing, that him working with whoever and however, you know, I feel like that I don't want to force you into my corner. I want to convince you that my corner is better than yours. Why don't you come talk to me? Let's try. But I feel like if Congress just don't work with him, like if the slim majority you know, if they get divided up, in my opinion, Trump's going to be like, all right, screw it all. And that's when every secret that he can dump will be dumped. A, first off, I want to fix all this mess. B, if nobody's going to work with me,
I'll burn it all down.
I'm going to expose everything that all of y'all have done for the last forever.
He should do that off the rip anyway. He should be exposing these people off the damn rip anyway.
He might still. We don't know really how pissed off he really is at this point. We're going to find out really soon.
But I am excited about seeing an elegant first lady. That's what I like. The last time I can remember seeing a first lady that actually, you know, was Southern Belle, elegant, has been a good long while. I don't see her walking into an interview in a pantsuit. Melania, she is I love her. She's elegant. And that's what a first lady should be.
She's back.
And I think she's smart too.
She's not.
She's smart.
Not stupid.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm optimistic. For me personally, more than anything, I like the message. I think that regardless of what ends up happening with Trump, I think regardless of what happens with these politicians, I think the people are speaking. You're seeing this on social media. You're seeing this through actions a lot of these big companies are taking right now. I think the culture is swinging in our direction. So ultimately, that's a big sign I think people should be happy for. You know, as libertarians, honestly, for me, I don't even know what the hell I am anymore, but all I know is I want as little government as possible. But at the same time, I kind of can recognize right now that we are seriously in a war. Now, it's a civil war. It might be a cold civil war. It's a culture war, however you want to put it. But people are out there murdering other people for political reasons.
For no reason.
People are losing their minds out there in the name of their ideology. You know, we have, you know, what happened in Nashville, the school shooting, then trying to assassinate Trump. You know, all these things have allegedly happened. The environment is very toxic right now. So in wartime, if you want your family to survive, then you have to support some things that, like you said earlier, that you might not always want to support when things are going pretty good. But at this point in time, knowing I've got 3 children, I will sit back and say, all right, if you want to throw your executive orders out there, you get your opportunity to do it, but you need to squash the other side. This back and forth can't continue on because we are so close to the brink of communism right now. It's not even funny. Well, it's not even funny. Like, these next 4 years are crucial.
They are, and I think that's, you know, I don't necessarily know what to expect from Trump, but I take pride in the fact that I think the woke movement is, at least at this point, dying, and that's good to see, because that needed to happen.
It had to take somebody that couldn't be bought. You know, I mean, I read an article a journalist wrote that has covered presidents last 30 years, and he said that this is the first time ever that he has seen guests, people coming to interact, talk to the president-elect, that was kissing his feet. Like, that was coming in submissively, let's talk, instead of the president-elect basically, hey, what are you going to do for me?
Right.
And when you have Donald Trump, who could just leave today and go to one of his golf courses in a total different country, and Elon Musk, neither one of them can be bought. I don't necessarily believe I ain't got to agree or believe, but I trust somebody that can't be bought way over somebody that every dollar they have ever made in their life came from a percentage off my check.
When someone shows you who they are, believe them. I mean,
and if you got the balls to build a skyscraper in New York City, and people, well, he went bankrupt in Atlantic City, and
people fail all the time. It's a mark of success. You have to learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, you get back and stand back up.
Yeah, everybody wants to talk about his, however many handful of businesses went bankrupt, and every single time they mention that, they fail to mention his, 100 or so businesses that are successful, like Trump Steaks and stuff like that. They say, oh, what happened to Trump Steaks? They went away. No, actually, they didn't. Like, Trump Steaks, you can still get at all of his hotels and all of his, courses and things like that. He keeps it in-house. All his water is in-house. He is a very smart person. He keeps everything. Trump Magazine, you can still get it. You can still get it at his facilities and stuff like that. Those businesses didn't go away. He just uses them in his own facilities, and he's paying himself to make money on himself, which is a sign of a good businessman. This country is a business, for better or worse, at this point in our history, and we have to make solid, sound business decisions, and DEI and that nonsense is not good business. Good business is merit-based. Get the firefighter in there, it can carry anybody out of a house, realistically speaking. Get the military person in there who can actually pass an audit, who's not blowing through trillions of dollars that have went up missing.
A Secret Service girl that knows how to holster a pistol.
Absolutely. Somebody who's been overseas, somebody who has seen the horrors of war, somebody who spent their entire career fighting against polluting the waters and against negative health consequences and things like that. Yeah,
and that's why America has to be run as a business. I mean, like UPS, pretty sizable business. Most of their pilots that they're flying into, like, if they're flying big planes into snowy runway, they use a lot of their girl pilots. They're got way better pilot hands than guys do. But it's not because they're a girl. It's because them girls prove that they're
a necessary quality.
Yes, that's who you want there. I don't care who you are, what you are. I want the person that is best doing this job.
Yeah, meet the standards. That's it. What's the standard?
No, not meet the standards. Exceed the standards.
Either way, you should at least be able to, as a firefighter, carry a 200-pound person out of a window. As a military person, right now, even, and this is one thing a lot of people fail to realize when it comes to combat. We are very, what was you saying earlier, Chip? We're kind of pampered or whatever, but our military is kind of pampered as well too. We don't have these situations as very often where you're stuck out there in the field for months on end. You have no communication. I mean, World War II kind of style doesn't exist anymore, but that moment could happen at any point in time. And, women out in those positions, they possess health risks as well, because if they end up losing their sack and they don't have those feminine hygiene products, I'm just saying these are the small things you have to think about when lives are on the line.
But
you can't carry your buddy out of the field. Just meet the standards, and if that happens, pray to God. But if you can't carry somebody out of the field, if you can't carry somebody out of a house, you shouldn't be in that situation. At the end of the day, you should not be in a leadership position. You shouldn't be telling other people what to do.
Well, not in combat, but who cracked all the codes in World War II, like World War I, World War II? Who cracked 90% of the codes?
Navajos?
Women.
Well, or no, women. We used the Navajo code. They couldn't crack.
Because all the women, they were the best for that job. If we got the best pilots or women pilots, yes, but if you're lugging shells into a gun, no.
Well, and you have to think, if you take a step back and look at the history of America in the last, probably about 40 or 50 years is when affirmative action started. And that was the beginning of looking at something other than a meritocracy for anything in America. And that took root. And over time, that became DEI. That became what we modernly know as DEI. And so we're undoing decades long of this being ingrained in society. And we it's going to take, it's amazing to see the swing that we've seen in the last couple months, but it's going to take a little time for it to get out, because it has fully ingrained itself in our universities and our schools. And so, it's going to take some time.
Like I said earlier, we were
some more effort to get it out of there.
Battling.
I feel like that it got so bad, from the trans and sport, it got so bad. I think it's the reason that it is
coming to back. They went
so fast.
They went too far too quick.
Yeah.
They panicked and they started releasing everything they possibly could, and it backfired because they forgot that there's a generation of people who grew up without the freaking internet out there that are leading the charge, and that is us.
And the generation that grew up without the internet is the same generation that has pushed the alternative, podcast and all that. That's the same generation that came up without being spoon-fed the internet.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I really don't give a crap. I don't care if you are black, white, Hispanic, if you are a male or female. I don't care what religion you believe in. If my house is on fire and you get my children out of that house, I'm going to hug you. I'm going to thank you. I'm going to appreciate you. I'm going to say you absolutely deserve to have this job. And that's as simple as it needs to get back to for this country. That's it. Just merit-based. It should not be a controversial position.
It shouldn't be at all. And that might be a test for where we are as a nation, is how much we're actually a meritocracy at any given moment moving forward. But there's hope. There's hope that we didn't have before. There's hope. And we're seeing signs. It's crazy to see the signs we're seeing before Trump's actually taken office.
Something simple as Zuckerberg taking down the tampons and some of his offices.
And not just that simple. But the fact that he's met with him multiple times, the fact that, and I didn't look at it this way originally, but he put one of Trump's best buddies on his board. Dana White and Trump are like that. But I never thought of it in terms of Trump, but that just happened. He just put Dana White on there after meeting with Trump, and it almost clearly seems, if you look at it that way, that now Trump's got a guy who he trusts on that board to basically report back whatever the hell he needs to report back, or to basically keep things, above board and honest. So it's wild to see what's happened before the man even takes office. And, you got to give him credit for that power, because he'll never get credit for that elsewhere.
Zuckerberg should be looked at as a fair weather friend. That's what he is. Mm-hmm. Do not forget what happened.
That's right.
During 2020 and what he did. He's sitting there and telling you what he did, but at the same time, I don't know. You don't really get a ton of my respect when you come out way after the fact, when the tides are shifting, and then start speaking your mind. Like, what makes you trustworthy is when you're speaking out when everybody
Well, for starters, he stole the idea from his buddies.
Oh.
So, I mean, let's be honest from the get-go. Trump don't respect that dude at all.
Well,
period.
What we're just saying is, now Trump's got one of his best buddies on the board. Dana White, who's, Trump's best guys, one of Trump's best guys, is now on the board at Facebook or Meta. And so I guess, we were saying it's like.
You got to save face, man.
Well, and he's got eyes. He's got eyes on the board now.
What I will say on that, when people like Zuckerberg are reaching out and doing these kind of things, look, I know the popular and fun thing to do is to rag him and give him shit and point out everything he did. But there has to be a path to redemption for people. There has to be a way back, because that's how we're going to capture the culture. If people think that, if they completely change everything about them and come back and say, I was wrong, and you still reject them, well, it's going to go right back into the arms of the freaking enemy, who is at least going to be there to support them. So, yeah, he's a fair weather friend. He's got a lot to prove, but welcome him back with open arms, because we need it. We need that culture on Facebook to shift back. You've seen a difference since your page came back, almost 1 million subscribers. It came back. I have seen a massive boost in our following over the past few months. I've seen, actually, we make more on Facebook than we do on X.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, we've got twice the following over there, but the engagement is higher on X for whatever weird reason. It's just.
And it'll never, the more you try to understand it, the more it doesn't make sense.
So
none of it.
You look how much money the net worth of Truth Social, since Donald Trump's since it was looking real good for him to be elected, how much the net worth of that company has moved. And you look at Facebook, I can tell you why Zuckerberg was there. Because he sees he could get left behind quick, fast, in a hurry.
Well, and I think his biggest fear is Trump pulling his protections, because right now they're not looked at as a publisher, and so
they should be,
and they absolutely should be, and so that is their motivation, because they get all this freedom that they have now to censor their own content, which they would lose if they became a publisher.
And also, if a police department sends an email to Facebook, hey, I have reason to believe Chip Slate's involved in such and such. Will you send me any of his traffic on Facebook from this date to this date? They send it to you.
Sure they do.
No. A judge should have to make
You're right. It should have to be subpoenaed, but they work with agencies all over.
Yes, they do.
Yep.
And I feel like he knows a lot of that stuff that he's been doing. But, man, he should have clearly got a better spray tan before he went and hung out.
He got a perm, it looked like, too. I don't know where the hell that came from.
Yeah.
He's got a chain and everything. He's and doing MMA. I mean, he's come a long way in his own journey, I guess. But
well, there should always be a path to redemption. That's how
there you go.
Capture the culture. And, and like I said, I've seen a positive change. It's going to take a while for the algorithms there to catch back up and everything, but we need to capture those outlets. We need that word of mouth. We need people seeing good, solid, moral content. We need to stop having dissenting voices silenced so much. We need that to happen. So, take it with caution, but at the same time, trying to give them a chance. Give them a chance. They're reaching out. They're extending an olive branch. So let's try and bring them back into the fold and get things going back in the right direction.
I do need to take a moment to give credit to Jessica Reed Cross, who is at House in Habit on Instagram. She is she was a former Hollywood journalist turned political commentator in the last year. And she's got over 1.5 million followers. She's basically the new independent journalist in politics. And she shares our stuff constantly. Just yesterday, she shared 5 of our posts in one day, and all on her stories. And it's just she's done this for months leading up to the election and now afterwards. But this is how our smaller voices get amplified, because somebody like her puts us into the ethos. I mean, her followers are basically all of Hollywood. They're all of the politicians on both sides. I mean, she traveled with Trump's team. She traveled with RFK's team. So all those folks get seen or see us through her. So
they're planting that seed.
Right. So credit to her for doing that, but she likes to give views outside of the mainstream, and we fill that niche for her, and she trusts us in the news that we produce. So it's really cool that she does that, and I know we help her in that because we give her content, but she also amplifies our voice, and so I really appreciate her doing that.
And I mean, I've seen it, which I mean, I came out of the church pure. Like I knew nothing about anything politics, the infighting. I mean, I was a trust and love guy, but I never thought I would see a time where, like, a lot of I mean, you see the people coming out of Hollywood and stuff that are just like, man. I mean, we basically got to the point we knew we'd be blacklisted if we spoke at. Now we've got to the point where we don't give a damn.
Right.
I mean, that's how bad it is. That's how bad it's got.
Well, how did these business people, Chip, get to the point to where they would shoot their own foot and they would bite the hand that feeds them? Because let's be honest, we all know, let's take sporting events, for instance. They got so political over it, knowing good and well that your average sports fan, 90% of your base is good, blue-collar, hardworking Americans. They're not super left, they're not super right, they're just in the middle. They want a little escape at the end of the day. And all these companies that represent that person went so far freaking left and woke and just killed themselves. Like, how much money did Bud Light lose? How much money did some of these companies lose that they could have had?
They didn't expect it.
All to appease such a minute percentage of the population that doesn't even support them. It doesn't even, like, gay people just don't care about sports. Not the guys anyway, most of them, So why are you trying to, it makes zero sense.
The wheel that squeaks the loudest gets the grease.
And a lot of those people, you're absolutely right that they sort of injected themselves in that, but I think a lot of it has to do with money. My understanding was a lot of these corporations, the equity partners that they had or the people who were providing the money were like BlackRock based or DEI based. And it basically became a trend. Either you were going that DEI route or you weren't. If you were, then you were sort of greenlit for more money. You got more perks in the the corporation or the.
There's a social credit system essentially.
It was a minor social credit system, and that quietly is what Trump is going to have to roll back. And you've already seen it sort of again working on its own. You're seeing these companies already divorce themselves up.
I mean, when you have the government mandating that you have to have a certain percentage minority workers, and you do job interviews at a big company and you have a guy that interviews for a welding position, and he has been welding race cars for Kevin Harvick for 3 years, but you hire a minority person ahead of him just because you have to meet your numbers. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's how this, that's how this happened.
Yep. That's exactly how we got here.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. Or was it is it Adam Carolla or whatever?
Mm-hmm. Talking about the firefighter.
Yeah, the firefighter.
Yep.
I mean, that happens.
Sure it does.
All day, every day.
There's consequences for not taking the best person for the job.
Absolutely.
There are actual consequences for that. And you're seeing that one side is learning that a really, really, really hard way.
I built a house for a couple at the lake. Super wealthy, well-connected in ways that we can't imagine. Mm-hmm. And they were talking to me one time about they had minority workers that they paid. They never walked in the doors of the company. Mm-hmm. They paid them a salary every day, every month. They got a check just because of
so they could put them on the books.
Their numbers,
mm-hmm.
not because they were any benefit, mm-hmm. but it served their purpose to be paying somebody sitting in a house all day, every day, and have them on the books.
It gave them a percentage
to
quota.
Get their mm-hmm. and that that's madness.
It is, and it's not sustainable. I think that again, that's why people sort of got they're like this can't go on.
It was a wake up.
This can't continue. If this continues, we're not going to exist.
And I'm going to tell you right now, COVID changed the world in ways we'll never know. consciously, subconsciously, every way possible.
Big time.
Every way possible.
Mm-hmm.
What came out of COVID that I don't think was expected was everybody had a chance to sit down and wake up their brain.
There's a big mistrust of the government that a lot of people didn't have.
Everybody had a chance to sit down because they couldn't work.
Yep.
And think things through that they had never, ever thought about.
They had to see, teachers' unions demand that kids not go to school in person anymore, and then had to have those kids at home with them when they had to miss work to take care of those damn kids at home.
And then you could get a religious exemption to keep your kids from getting vaccinated, but your kids got to sit behind a plexiglass while,
That's discrimination.
And
honestly, people should go back to start steward schools right now.
It became so front and center of the craziness. All these parents, all these kids were on virtual learning. Them parents got to look over them shoulders.
Sure.
And see what was going on. And in every way, in every fashion, in any and every way we can think of, that moment, COVID changed our lives forever.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of things that we never, ever even thought about, questions subconsciously or not, until then.
That's right.
Yeah, but at what price? So much was destroyed.
Well, it didn't go like they thought.
So much was destroyed. So, all right. So before we get out of here real quick, I just want to talk one more time. Students for Liberty, couple weeks, get your tickets, go online. Look, come hang out with us. Amos will tell you. You know Amos. You've heard him enough on this show. You know his background. To talk him into actually going to D.C. last year and dress as Abraham Lincoln, I mean, it blew your mind. I mean, the amount of conversation that we could have as a couple of slap-jawed Appalachian hillbillies, it's mind-boggling. The people coming up to us and want to, you know what I mean? Like, it was a lot of fun.
I had so much fun.
And everybody, and that's the thing, people that come to this can enjoy that exact same thing. Like, this is a very open conference. People are really cool. There's a lot of emphasis, because it's international, there's a lot of emphasis on partying. That seems to be an underlying theme of it that we, kind of maybe got too involved in last year. But at any rate, because of that international flair, yes.
You and your mouse and your party.
Yeah, well, I think Simon had that endless rum, or that hole in the cup or something like that. But, just the experience, the people you get to see. I mean, Kane, the mayor of Knox County or of Knoxville there is going to be there. Kane from WWE. You can't make this stuff up. Who all is going to be there for us? So.
Yeah, and hopefully we're going to get some of them on the show, and we're going to have a good time. We're going to talk to these people, and
right.
We're going to get a lot more good eyes, I guess, is the best way to put it, on Appalachia, on our region. We're gonna be front and center. We're gonna have an opportunity to ask these people questions about our region.
She probably came to close it down. But before I forget though, Being Libertarian at libertycon.com, you put in Being Libertarian to the promo code, you'll get half off the tickets. Again, they're less than $25 last I checked. You cannot beat that for this experience for a whole weekend. February 7th and 8th in DC. Come to the belly of the beast. It's always an experience.
Yeah, we're going to have an absolute blast. Also, go give us a follow on all social media accounts, Being Libertarian on all three of your top ones. Us at Get On Tap for X, Appalachian Podcast for Instagram and Facebook. As always, you can subscribe on X. You can subscribe at patreon.com/GetOnTap for less than $1 a day. You will get this show right now a week before everybody else will. Please go check that out. Also, our good buddy Matthew Rife at Rife Technology. Make sure you're giving him a follow and looking into what he can do for you for your health. Spike Cohen, You Are the Power. Make sure you're giving them a follow and seeing what all the good he's doing in our region. And one more thing I wanted to say before we get out of here. Unfortunately, here in the last couple of weeks since we've done the show, I lost another friend of mine, and in 2 months, I've lost 3 people that are around my age that I had really fond memories of. This most recent one probably hurt the most. The wild thing is I've got 3 people in my life that I really look up to as kind of like best friends, people that have been there for a long, long time. Amos, Cole, and Craig, and all 3 of them were super close with each person. So as somebody that's really close with them, and I had a lot of memories with Ben Hutto, and I just want to say I'm going to miss him, and we had some phenomenal road trips going to see Widespread Panic and some really good times over the years. And I want to just throw this out here. There's a GoFundMe one of my buddies set up, and I wanted everybody, if you got $1 or $2 here or there, You can search it at GoFundMe. It's the memory of Ben Hutto - help Susie find stability and hope. Because Susie left a 4 or 5-year-old daughter behind. And that hit home hard. That really did.
A quick one about Ben. This gives our age up. I met my wife, and like Monday or something, I run into Ben that afternoon, and I was telling him about this chick I met, whatever. He was like, "What's her name?" Well, I told him. And he was like, "Is she on the book?" And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "She on the book?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Man, Facebook." First time in my life I'd ever heard of Facebook.
Got my pajamas on, ready for action.
Ben Hutto was the very first person that is the first time in my life I'd ever heard the word Facebook.
Interesting.
That's
you
wild.
on the book?
Well,
First name.
Oh, they just born tonight?
Just
Full moon.
Oh, two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Full moon tonight.
How about that?
They'll crank them out.
well, on that note, we're going to go ahead and get off here. Thank
we gotta
everybody
go to
for
the barn. I
tuning
wanna look at the
in.
land.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll catch you next time. I think here in the next week or so, we're going to try and do a Spaces on X with the people from Students for Liberty.
That's right.
So be following Be a Libertarian for that. We'll send out a link on our page and theirs. And everybody else, appreciate you. We'll see you next time.
Enjoyed it.
Always. Bucks or dose.
We drive trucks, we plow fields, we'll work from sun up until it goes back down again. We raise hell on Friday nights. It becomes Sunday morning, you can find us at the Church of Christ. It may sound like a simple life, but the living sure is fine. Yeah, where I come from, we drank moonshine. If it can be broken, it can be fixed. We come from busted knuckles and we know how to use a wrench. We raise our kids, we teach them wrong from right. Yeah, and you can bet your ass that they'll never back down from a fight. It may sound like a simple life, but the living show is fine. Yeah, where I come from, we drank moonshine. Country music, we're turning way up high, and I can sing every word to a country boy can survive. We like our beer, we drink it ice cold, and the stuff we smoke, well, it's gotta be hand rolled. It may sound like a simple life, but it keeps me feeling high. Yeah, where I come from, we drink moonshine. It may sound like a simple life, but it feels so damn right. Yeah, where I come from, we drink moonshine.